This is Joseph James DeAngelo Jr. You probably know him best as the Golden State Killer, an American serial killer, sex offender, burglar, and former police officer who committed at least 13 murders, 51 rapes, and 120 burglaries, terrorizing California for over 22 years. Between 1973 and 1986, he was responsible for at least 3 separate crime sprees in the state, each of which spawned a different nickname in the press, before it became evident that they were committed by the same person. DeAngelo was known as the Visalia Ransacker in the San Joaquin Valley before moving to the Sacramento area, where he became known as the East Area Rapist and was linked by procedure to additional attacks in Stockton, Modesto, and Contra Costa County. DeAngelo committed serial murders in Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Orange counties, where he is known as the Night Stalker and later the original Night Stalker. He is believed to have made obscene phone calls and written communications, taunting and threatening both the victims and police. It wasn't until April 24, 2018 that the Sacramento County Sheriff's deputies arrested DeAngelo, ending an investigation that took over 47 years. During the decades-long investigation, several suspects were cleared using DNA evidence, alibis, or other investigative methods. After DNA testing revealed that the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker were the same person in 2001, the combined acronym ERONS came to use. The case helped establish California's DNA database, which collects DNA from all accused and convicted felons in California. The database has been called second only to Virginia's in effectiveness in solving cold cases. The name Golden State Killer was used by crime writer Michelle McNamara in early 2013 to raise awareness of the case. On June 15, 2016, the FBI and local law enforcement agencies held a news conference to announce a renewed nationwide effort to catch the Golden State Killer. They offered a $50,000 reward for his capture. DeAngelo, 72, was charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder by the state of California on April 24, 2018. Investigators identified members of the DeAngelo's family through forensic genetic genealogy. This was also the first time that the Visalia Ransacker crimes were connected to DeAngelo. California's statute of limitations on pre-2017 rape cases prevented DeAngelo from being charged with the 1970s rapes. But he was charged with 13 related kidnapping and abduction in August 2018. He pleaded guilty to multiple counts of murder and kidnapping on June 29, 2020. DeAngelo also admitted to numerous crimes with which he had not been formally charged, including rapes, as a part of a plea bargain that spared him the death penalty. DeAngelo was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole on August 21, 2020. On March 25, 1975, sisters 10-year-old Catherine Mary Lyon and 12-year-old Sheila Mary Lyon disappeared without a trace during a trip to a shopping mall in Washington, D.C., suburb of Wheaton, Maryland. Their case resulted in one of the largest police investigations in Washington metropolitan area history. They were colloquially known as the Lyon Sisters. In 2013, a team of cold case investigators in Montgomery County, Maryland, made a breakthrough in the case. They focused on Lloyd Lee Welch Jr., who served a lengthy prison sentence in Delaware for child sexual abuse. This was the culmination of a long criminal record that began a few years after the girls disappeared, with the burglary arrest in their jurisdiction. In September 2017, after 42 years, Welch pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder for the abduction and murder of the 2 sisters. It had long been one of the most high-profile unsolved cases in the DC area. The bodies of the girls have never been found. Police records show that during the original investigation, Welch came forward a week after the girls disappeared and told the security guard at the shopping center the girls went to before they disappeared that he had seen another man take them there. Welch provided a description of the other man, which matched the description that newspapers and other media had already provided to the public. According to that description, a conservatively dressed man had demonstrated a new type of audio cassette player at a shopping mall, where children and teens, including the Lyon sisters, gathered near him. A short time after Welch told this story to the security guard, he was questioned at a police station, failed a lie detector test, admitted he had lied, was released, and was not questioned again until 38 years later. When the case reopened, police found that a mugshot of Welch from 1977 looked a lot like a police sketch of a possible suspect who had been seen staring at a wall. He made statements that further implicated him. Although he continued to protest his innocence, detectives began interviewing Welch in prison. One of Welch's relatives told him that he had helped Welch burn 2 heavy, bloody duffel bags in Bedford County, Virginia. He was indicted and charged with the girl's murders in July 2015, but pleaded guilty to murder 2 years later. Diana Lynn Beaudoin, an Arizona State University senior, met her parents for a dinner on January 6, 1978, and then went to meet a friend at a nearby bar. They stayed at the bar until midnight, and then Beaudoin informed her friend that she was going home. Beaudoin returned to her apartment in Tempe in the early hours of January 7th. At around 2 a.m., Beaudoin's boyfriend returned to the apartment and found her dead body lying on the bed. Beaudoin had been stabbed multiple times and had been strangled to death with a belt. Her vagina and underwear were found to contain semen, but it could not be positively matched to any suspect. There were no leads for the next 23 years. In 2001, a cold case detective, Detective Tom Magazzini, checked the DNA profile against the national database. He found that the profile matched Clarence Dixon, who was serving a life sentence in an Arizona state prison for a 1986 sexual assault conviction. It was found out that Dixon had lived across the street from Beaudoin when she was killed. None of Beaudoin's family or friends were aware of any connection between her and Dixon. Dixon was charged with raping and murdering Beaudoin. However, due to a statute of limitations, the rape charge was later dropped. On January 24, 2008, Dixon was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to the death penalty. Dixon's lawyers argued that he was mentally incapacitated, had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and had experienced frequent hallucinations throughout his life. During 2015, he was declared legally blind. Dixon had previously been found not guilty by reason of insanity in an assault case from 1977. The murder of Beaudoin had only occurred 2 days after the verdict. Dixon was scheduled for execution on May 11, 2022 by the Arizona Supreme Court. On April 5, 2022, the court issued an execution warrant for Dixon. Dixon had the option of being executed by lethal injection or lethal gas. After refusing to choose a method on April 20, the state announced that Dixon would be executed by lethal injection, the default method for inmates who do not make a decision. A commutation or a reprieve request was denied by the Arizona Board of Executive Clemency on April 28. On May 11, Dixon was executed by lethal injection, making him the first person to die in Arizona since 2014. The injection began at 10:19 a.m. He was pronounced dead 11 minutes later at 10:30 a.m. Dixon maintained his innocence in his final statement. In 1993, 16-year-old Rainer Reason, a student at the LaPorte High School in LaPorte, Indiana, located about 70 miles outside of Chicago, had plans to go on a date after work with a boy named Matt Elser. However, when Elser arrived to pick her up from work, she wasn't there. He went to her home to see if she had gone there, but her father said she wasn't there. Raina's family called the police when she didn't return home, but they had to wait up to 24 hours to file a missing persons report. They began searching for her the following day. Reason was reported to have been speaking with 2 individuals in a sedan outside the animal hospital where she worked. Police thought it was likely Elser. They interviewed him and exonerated him of any involvement. After a while, Reason's car would be found 9 miles from the animal hospital. The keys were in the ignition, and the car started without any issues, even though it looked like she may have had car trouble on the side of the road. Reason had disappeared on March 26, 1993. On April 26, a father and daughter fishing in a pond discovered a body that would later be confirmed as the remains of Rainer Reason, 1 month after she had last been seen. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, and the death was ruled to be a homicide. Even before the body was discovered, police had several strong suspects. One was Reason's brother-in-law, Ray McCarty. Ray McCarty had been convicted of sexually abusing Reason, and he had been seen in the area around the time of her disappearance. Police eventually found blood and firearms in his car and arrested him for Reason's murder, but they were unable to confirm where the blood came from. It could have been animal blood since McCarty was a hunter. In 1999, the prosecutor dropped the charges because there wasn't enough evidence against McCarty to go to trial. Another suspect was Reason's ex-boyfriend, Jason Tibbs. The two had dated in the 7th grade. Years later, he would become the prime suspect. But upon the dismissal of the charges against Ray McCarty, the case went cold. The police did not receive a new tip until years later, which would have made them reconsider Jason Tibbs. Eric Hammonds, a prison inmate, told investigators to look for Tibbs. Tibbs and a friend, Eric Freeman, allegedly parked their car on his family's property and showed him a body wrapped in the blanket in the trunk when he was 14 years old. Freeman was interviewed by police and offered immunity in exchange for testifying in the case against Jason Tibbs. During the night of Rison's disappearance, he and Tibbs drove to the animal hospital, where they got into an argument. Toward the end of the confrontation, Tibbs pulled Rison into the car and strangled her. In 2014, Tibbs was found guilty of murdering Raina Rison. Although he was sentenced to 40 years in prison, he continues to fight the charges levied against him.